What's the worst cousin story you've ever heard? Before we start with the first story, please hit a subscribe and ring the notification bell to stay updated with us. Number 10. I had a friend in high school and he kept telling his attractive older female cousin seemed to be flirting with him and trying to sleep with him. We called him out for his obvious lies. I was over at his house like a month later and his cousin stopped by with her family. We were in the basement and the whole time she was flirting with him and rubbing his arms and thighs. She was his first cousin. It was like watching a modern video intro. Number 9. My cousin robbed my dying uncle, then Walmart, then sold a car he did not have a title to. He got arrested for it. Then the story was in the news, online local paper. It read Eric is charged with robbery, breaking and entering, and car theft. Eric decided to comment on the story, I didn't steal a car. Trashiest thing ever. Number 8. Doing a hike with two of my cousins and an uncle of ours. One of my cousins found a ball-shaped cactus and wanted to take it with him for no reason. He just thought it was cool. He didn't have any container, so he had to carry it in his hand, causing the cactus to sting his fingers continually. After a while, my uncle told him to throw it away, because he was getting harmed. My cousin did it, but in the most stupid way. He threw the cactus in the air and kicked it, like a goalkeeper, causing the thing to get nailed to his foot. Number 7. I'm an only child, but because I was the oldest cousin on my mother's side, my aunt always assumed I would babysit my two cousins. So one day I was playing hide and seek with them. I was hiding behind the boat under this garage and I saw my cousin come running around the corner and he ran straight into the metal thing that locks the gate, and under his eye was a massive cut and ended up getting stitches. Right after it happened, she started yelling and getting physical with me, shouting, "You are supposed to take care of him." My parents had to step in and calm her down and say it's not my job to look after them. Things that she never asked or told me to take care of them, she just always blamed it on me if they got hurt. Me and my parents are visiting them on the holidays and on some weekends, and I was 10 at the time and they were 6 and 8, and they just expect me to look after them. Number 6. I have a very large blended family. When I was a young kid, my blood cousin dated my step-cousin. No blood relation of any kind, and they were technically from opposite sides of the family for them, but for me it was the same side. Little me went to school and told all my friends how my cousins were dating, and I saw them holding hands while they were babysitting me. My mom received a very interesting phone call from my teacher that day. I have way worse stories, but after reading some of the ones in this thread, I decided to go with a more tame one. Number 5. It's not the worst cousin story, but it is a cousin story. I had to travel outside of my home province to get LASIK surgery done. So I get there on the day of the surgery and the receptionist checking me is roughly my age and super cute. So we're talking, kind of flirting, and suddenly she goes, "You have the same last name as I do." Instant stop. Do not pass go. A little more chit-chat and we figured out that we were related, albeit distantly. Still a note for me though. Fast forward several months later and I'm back home working at a concert. After the show, this group of girls walks up to me and one of them starts chatting me up. You see where this is going? It's her. She's all over me. She sees it as a sign that she randomly ran into me several months later. She wants to know what I'm doing. I'm going home to shower and get food. It's been a long day. I'm hot, sweaty, and hungry. You could come back to my hotel room? I politely decline that offer, but she slides me her cell and room number, insisting that I come over as soon as I'm done. I take it to be polite because she was relentless. I go home and shower and then just absolutely crash. There was absolutely no way it was ever going to happen. The fact she had the same uncommon last name as me was, and is, a huge no factor. Number 4. We used to go to the same campground with my cousins in the early 80s, and it took me a bit to figure out they were all bullies in various degrees. I was about 14 and we all decided to take a hike on a largish mountain, and I got stuck with the male part of the three. He was about 2 years older than me and abandoned me off the trail. I was okay at first, but it started to get dark, and I got lost. It was really disorientating and frankly terrifying. I ended up running to a ranger, and they guided me back to my group. He was standing there, all grinning behind everyone's back and being a total Turns out they kept that gimmick until I washed my hand of all of them. Number 3. A friend of a friend had some chance encounter situation at a coffee shop in a huge city. The odds were astronomically low for all of this. He began a relationship with the girl from the coffee shop. After about 2 years of dating, she got into an accident and ended up passing. At the funeral, he met one of her friends that he'd never met before, and she consoled him. One thing led to another, and she went from consoling his heart to consoling his pee. Unfortunately for him, this wasn't one of those stories where the cousins secretly realize it at a family get-together and no one else is the wiser. She took him to meet her parents, and her father started interrogating the poor guy about his life and where he grew up / details about his life at dinner, and the realization that they were cousins came out in front of the father, mother, and her 2 brothers. They are still friends to this day, but they don't bang anymore, that we know of or that he will admit to. But I am told everyone still makes fun of him. Number 2. I have an awesome cousin story. As a kid, the thing to do in our little town was go to the neighboring town to roller skate. Long story short, my friend meets a girl, spends all night making out with her behind the rink. End of the night, my buddy decides to stay behind and wait for her parents to pick her up, being a gentleman. Monday at school, I ask him how'd the rest of the night go. Turns out his father had an estranged brother the family never talked about. The girl was his cousin. She didn't want to make out anymore. Number 1. Not nearly as bad as some of the other stories. I was seeing this guy in high school for like a year. I have a feeling he's cheating on me, and long story short, we'd break up. I'm catching up with my cousin a couple of weeks later. She's describing how she was seeing this guy and really liked him until she found out guy was cheating on his girlfriend with her. He cheated on me with my cousin. He also had no idea we were related. He just has a type, I guess. Reply. That reminds me of something that happened when I was 17. A friend and I were in the parking lot of the local pizza place one Saturday night, and these guys pull up and start talking to us and flirting with us. After a few minutes, I crouch down to get a better look at the driver, and I say, "Hey, aren't you dating my cousin April?" His eyes got wide and he drove away. That was back in 2004. I was 17, and he and my cousin were both about 25. Thankfully, I didn't flirt back with the because we lived in a super small town, and I recognized him immediately. I couldn't decide if I was more disgusted by the fact that he was being a boyfriend to my cousin, or the fact that he was hitting on what, I know, was obviously a high school girl. I feel it was probably obvious because of the clothes I was wearing combined with how young I looked, but I guess it's possible that he didn't know I was in high school. I don't think I ever told my cousin because we weren't super close and I was afraid she wouldn't believe me, and I didn't want to potentially ruin our relationship over some guy. Plus, all I'd really caught him doing was flirting, which, depending on your stance on the matter, may or may not be that big of a deal. Anyway, a few years later they got married. Today they are still married and have 2 kids together. I've had to see that a shat every year at Christmas at my grandmother's. I don't think I've ever even spoken to him beyond that short encounter in that parking lot back in 2004. Alright folks, that's a wrap. Thanks for joining us today. If you like more of this, please hit a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. You can also share your own story or thoughts in the comments below. We'd love to hear from you. I'll see you in the next video.